Hello class, this is your instructor Paul DiStefano, and in this video I would like to explain the week 4 milestone 2 instructions on how to do this assignment. It's trying to simplify it as much as possible because the spreadsheets that are used in the examples are rather complicated with a lot of data that you may not need to use. It's financial data. It's provided by the finance department, so it has a lot of information that they need, and I'll go through that somewhat. But the assignment for milestone 2 right here is to demonstrate how earned value, planned value, and actual cost are used to calculate the following EV measures: cost variance, schedule variance, cost performance index, schedule performance index, estimate to complete, estimate at completion, and variance at completion. Now, those are basically just formulas that you can verbally describe in your paper that you submit on how you would make that calculations and where in the spreadsheet the numbers would come from to make those calculations. Now on part B, employ earned value measurement equations to calculate EVM measures, cost variance, schedule variance, CPI, SPI for this project in the case study. So now we're getting more specific to the spreadsheet that's provided. So here is the spreadsheet down here. And what I've done, this is basically the program baseline, which really is not supposed to change unless there is a scope change or a customer directed change, and you're given additional budget. And in some cases, if things get so far off course, the earned value starts to be meaningless and the customer approves a complete rebaseline, and then this would change. But on a successful project, these numbers wouldn't change. These planned numbers here would stay the same throughout, and then you just be tracking monthly status, rolling status, and rolling EVM calculations down here. So what I did for this assignment was I took Exhibit 6C and I took the actual burn and the actual perform, which is the ACWP and the BCWP, actual cost of work performed, budgeted cost of work performed. These would not be provided to you by finance because this is based on status of performance. So for this project, in other words, they spent this much money each month, and they earned this much value each month. Now, what you'll notice about this section up here is that it's an LOE function: executive management, product management, architecture. These are LOE functions. So level of effort means they basically took the people working on it, what the salaries were, and they rolled it up, and it stayed consistent every month. And then the earned value always equals the plan for LOE. So the budgeted cost of work performed will always equal the budgeted cost of work scheduled all the way across, because that's what LOE does. Now, the actual cost may fluctuate depending on who you have working on it, how many people are working on it, what their salaries are. So you can overrun or underrun your cost performance, but your schedule performance is always 100% because it's an LOE function. So I took the data here, actual cost and budgeted cost, earned value, and I copied it over to the program baseline right here through July, since that's the only amount of data that was provided so far, and that's going to serve to prove that you can do the calculations necessary for this assignment. And then, of course, the rolling status is basically the same thing from above, except it's cumulative. You keep on adding the current month to the previous, and you get a rolling, basically a cumulative number all the way across that says your ACWP actuals 1.35 million and your earned value budgeted cost of work performed 1.15 million, which becomes obvious there's a little bit of an overrun here because you're spending more than you're earning by about 20%, 15%. And then the work scheduled is cumulative of what's above here for the BCWS. So everything up to here would be, if you notice down here, 1.35419, well down here 1.35419. So it's a cumulative work scheduled. What's interesting about that is if you look at the very end on work scheduled, you can see that after the initial deployment's completed, it's basically a $2.8 million program. So that's essentially the budget at completion, is all those numbers cumulatively at the end of the program. You had $2.878 million to do this project. So once I copied those into the program baseline, and then I did it again for the consulting company roll-up. I didn't do it for each of these because that would be kind of tedious, and it should be done in order to track what they're doing in different functions, because these are essentially different work packages and need to be tracked to see where the deviations are, the variances, so you know where to perform corrective action. But for the sake of Milestone 2, showing how to do the calculations, I am requesting that you can do it for all those, but I'm requesting that you only need to do it for the roll-up of ABC, big ABC Consulting Company. So I did the same thing here. I copied those numbers over from here, actual burn, actual perform, right there. And I copied them over to the program baseline right here. And then there's the monthly status, of course, which are the numbers that are provided by finance, and then the rolling status, which are just calculations based on those. And then you can see the budget at completion for the consulting company is 26.162 million. So that's the consulting portion of this project. So the total budget for the program is going to be a roll-up of the Close R Us IT staff and the big ABC consulting company. And there may be material involved too, which would give you budget at completion total of material and labor, if you needed to calculate that. So next, what I would want you to do to employ the EVM equations is basically put in the formulas for schedule variance, BCWP minus BCWS, to do that, you would just employ these equations and say, I'm going to take BCWP on the rolling status, since I want this to be cumulative schedule variance and cumulative SPI, not just on a monthly basis, even though you're going to look at it on a monthly basis. So I do BCWP minus BCWS, and it says it's 0. I have no schedule variance. And typically I don't have a schedule variance because it's LOE, so earned value always equals the plan. I go all the way out here, I drag the equation out. And if you notice, there is a schedule variance showing up in July after the requirements freeze, where all requirements should be locked down. We will delve deeper into why that might be the case, since typically LOE, since there is a plan all the way across the entire project until February, where product management and architecture tasks are done, but executive management continues, of course. There's going to still be oversight overall project and executive management. But that's not part of this milestone, so let's ignore that negative variance right there. So then we come down and we do the SPI calculation of BCWP divided by BCWS. That's basically earned value, or earned value divided by the plan. So schedule variance, earned value minus the plan, schedule or SPI, earned value divided by the plan. So it's a ratio. It says $1 because it's not in a percent format, so you change that to a percent format up here at the top. And you see that it's 100% SPI, which is good, perfect. And it should stay that way throughout for an LOE project unless you get somehow behind schedule and you add tasks, but in this case you're not. Again, 86% at the end. We'll delve deeper into that as to how that could possibly occur, since you do have planned budget for these functions all the way throughout. But again, not part of Milestone 2. So that's it for schedule based on rolling ratios, and now I'm going to do the cost. Different story here for LOE, even in that you can overrun or underrun LOE based on who's on the project, what their salaries are, how many people. Easy to control because you know exactly what you're putting on there and what you're running as far as manpower goes. But if you need additional program management, additional supervision, additional management skills, you can potentially overrun even LOE. So I take the BCWP and I subtract ACWP. And I get a zero cost variance, which you can see is the case from these numbers. They are basically running the correct plan with the correct people in the program, so the actuals are equaling the salaries of the people, of the employees. I drag that across, and then I do the same thing for CPI. I take cost performance index, earned value divided by actuals, and I take BCWP divided by ACWP, and it says $1 because it's a 1.0 ratio. I convert that to percentages and I get 100%, and I get a cost performance index as follows. Not as meaningful on LOE, I'll tell you that, other than the cost performance index for reasons I explained. But this basically does the EVM equations. So I now do the same thing for the consulting company, which is discrete earned value and is not LOE. So the earned value will not, and most likely will not, match the actuals. So I come in here and I do BCWP, put a plus sign first so that allows me to move the cursor and give you the BCWP minus the BCWS, and I drag that across. So this is our schedule variance, and you see it is not zero, so we are on schedule for the first 5 months, and then suddenly we fall off schedule significantly, which means we're not earning what the plan said. And you can see that you earned 6.6 million cumulatively, and you should have earned 7.8. If you look at what month that happened in, you can see it happens in June, and you earned 1.369 million, but you had actuals of 1.76 million to a plan of 2.5 million. So you're going to start seeing that you're going behind schedule and over budget, and these calculations will show you that. So then SPI is BCWP, divided by BCWS, and convert that to a percentage and then drag it across. And you can see for the first 5 months you are right on schedule, and now you're degrading. 85%, 72%, those are pretty bad. To only be 6 months, 7 months into the program and only have a 72% SPI. There needs to be some serious corrective action at this point, because that would be considered a red program to management and the customer. So we'll do cost variance, BCWP minus ACWP, and I messed up the calculation. BCWP minus ACWP, and I get 0 variance, and then I drag that across, and you can see I'm getting a cost variance. I'm 396K over budget this month, and then cumulatively in July I'm $1.76 million over budget. So again, we're having a problem after month 5. So I'll do the CPI, which shows it as a ratio, BCWP divided by ACWP. Show it as a percentage, and I'm good for the first 5 months, and then all of a sudden I have a CPI of 81%, which is usually considered red. Anything below 92%, finance sets up the criteria, or the customer, and then anything below 90% typically would be red and require corrective action, variance reports, and resolution reports on how you're going to recover the program. So that is how we do the measurements for part B of this assignment for Milestone 2. And then you'll see the third section here, 2C, is explain the implications of the projects in the case study when CPI is greater than 1.0, CPI is less than 1.0, and then SPI greater and less than 1.0. What is it basically telling us? And you'll do that verbally in your assignment paper. So I hope this helps quite a bit on how to do Milestone 2 and get the learning value out of what it's trying to show us on how to track earned value actuals and how to measure CVI or SPI, CPI, schedule variance, and cost variance, one in dollars and one in percentage as an efficiency rating. And that's done basically because if you come down here and you see a cost variance of 1.76 million, you would say, wow, that's a big number. But if you had a $100 million program, wouldn't be as big as you think, would it? So the ratio CPI is more of a it's a better metric because you can see it as an efficiency and see that you're running 81% over budget. That would be a problem at completion if you don't recover it. So please, if this sounds complicated, I really meant for it to sound simple. But if it sounds complicated and you're having trouble understanding what I did, please send me an email or post a general discussion group, and I can go through it again, or I can explain what your specific questions are. I have no problem with that. You really need to understand this because this spreadsheet and these calculations are really the meat of earned value metrics. Most of this data is provided by finance. Just if you notice this, even this plan up here for 88,750, if you look at the planning baseline, that is based on the salaries of all the people who are working this task, the vice president and director, and they totaled out to 88,750. That's basically where that number comes from. And then it's dragged across because that's a level of effort function. The same with the consulting company roll-up. They would have to produce a plan being based on discrete work, and that would be provided by finance in a program baseline spreadsheet. And as a program manager, the part that you're measuring is the actuals and the earned value. That's important. to understand what part you're entering, and then more importantly, what is your corrective action going to be. So please try to complete the assignment by Sunday as required in order to avoid a late penalty, and ask me any questions as they occur. I'd be absolutely glad to help you out with any questions to further clarify this. Thank you and have a good week.